I never believed in curses. That was something I left behind with childhood. The talk of haunted houses, cursed objects, and places where reality bends just enough for something else to slip in. I used to laugh at stories like that. But after 6 nights at the Delvine Motel, I don't laugh about curses anymore. I work the graveyard shift, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. It's a job nobody wants, especially here. The Delvine's been here since the 60s, perched at the edge of Highway 23 like a decaying tooth in the mouth of the woods. Most folks don't even realize it's there until they're already pulling into the lot. Faded neon buzzes half-lit letters. DLNAMO_EL. The T and the V burned out decades ago. And with each night I've spent in that lobby, I feel like something inside me is burning out too. My first night was quiet. Too quiet. Not in that quaint, peaceful way. More like when your ears ring in absolute silence, and your brain starts filling in the gaps with imagined whispers. The manager, Rick, gave me the manual, badge, and a key to the staff closet. Then, as I was signing the employment papers, he slid me a second envelope, unmarked, sealed, and heavy, like it contained something he really didn't want to hand over. "That," he grunted, tapping the envelope with a knuckle, "ain't company policy. But if you make it a week, you'll understand why we all get one." I laughed. What is it? Emergency protocol? Creepy guests? Ghosts? Rick didn't laugh. "Don't open it unless something feels off." Something about the way he said "feels off" lodged itself in my brain. It wasn't what he said. It was how he said it. Like he was trying not to remember something. Like saying it out loud might welcome it back. I almost forgot about the envelope by midnight. The first few hours were dull. I did the usual. Balanced the cash register, adjusted the thermostat, avoided the guest logs because the pen kept sliding off the page on its own. Normal graveyard stuff. At 1:03 a.m. exactly, there was a knock at the front lobby door. Soft, rhythmic. Always 3 taps. I figured it was a guest locked out of their room. But when I opened the door, there was no one there. Just the thick mist rolling in from the trees. But the weirdest part was the smell. Not rot, not mold. Cinnamon. Like warm apple cider. I turned to go back inside and paused when I saw it. The envelope. Sitting in the chair behind the counter. Open. I know I didn't open it. My heart thudded like a hammer made of meat. I approached slowly, as if the paper might bite. Inside was a single sheet, yellowed like sunburnt pages of an old book. Typed, not printed, in courier font. No signature. No letterhead. Just rules for the night shift. And below it, a list. Rule number 1. If someone knocks between 1:03 and 1:07 a.m., do not open the door. They are not locked out. Rule number 2. At 2:33 a.m., the lobby mirror will reflect something that does not belong. Do not look directly at your reflection. Rule number 3. Room 6 is always vacant. If the phone rings from that line, do not answer, no matter what it says. Rule number 4. At 3:15 a.m., you may smell cinnamon. If so, count backward from 10 and repeat, the guest has not arrived. Then, sleep will pass over you. Rule number 5. There is no room 13. If a guest asks for it, end your shift immediately. Walk home, and don't return. Below the rules, in faded red ink, one final line. Obedience is survival. Curiosity is fatal. I sat there for a long time. I didn't know what to do. Part of me thought this was some sick hazing ritual, a prank to scare off new hires. But something inside me resented the way that logic made me feel. Safe. And I realized then, I didn't feel safe. Not at all. I reread the rules again. Slowly, my eyes tripped over rule number 1. The knock. At 1:03 a.m. I snapped to attention and checked the clock. 1:06. I hadn't imagined it. I hadn't just heard a trick of the wind or the building creaking. There was a knock, and the rule had been broken. I looked back at the door. It was still closed, of course, but the doorknob was wet. The next few hours passed like molasses. I heard things, faint whispers that tickled the very edge of sound, breathing behind the vending machine, a chorus of voices humming above the drop ceiling, the clack of fingernails on the hallway floor, even though I never saw feet, and I sure as hell didn't open room 6's log entry, not after rule 3. At 2:32 a.m., I looked at the mirror. I shouldn't have. Curiosity, man. Everything looked normal at first. Me, slouched behind the desk, eyes sunken with boredom. But then it changed. The mirrored me smiled. I didn't. My hands were still. Its were tapping gently on the counter, like it was keeping time. The mirrored me leaned forward. I looked away, just in time. Why did I look? That was my fault. Rule 2. Broken again. And here's the thing. The rules didn't punish me instantly. They wait. They toy with you. They want to know where your line is, and when you'll cross it. By 3:14 a.m., I had already forgotten about Rule 4. The cinnamon smell hit me like a memory, like my grandmother's kitchen on a snowed-in Christmas Eve, a smell comforting enough to disarm every rational reflex in my body. Just as my eyelids started to tremble closed, I remembered the rule. Count backward. Say the mantra. I sat forward, gasping, sweat pouring down my back. 10, 9, 8, 7. I choked it out like a prayer. The guest has not arrived. The guest has not arrived. Every time I said it, the smell faded, like it was being erased, pulled back into some vacuum just beyond comprehension. At 3:17 a.m., fully awake again, I wept, quietly, because I realized that I hadn't even gotten to the worst rules yet, and that I would be back tomorrow. The following night, I almost didn't come back. I sat outside in my car for 15 straight minutes before I worked up the nerve to step into that cursed motel. I kept telling myself it was just a job, that people survive worse, that the rules were just part of some elaborate psychological test. Maybe I was being watched. Maybe Rick was in on it. Maybe I was just imagining things. But none of that changed the cold, unavoidable fact. I had broken 2 of the rules, and I was still here. That begged the question I hadn't yet dared to ask. Why? Why hadn't anything permanent happened to me last night? Were the consequences stacking up? Was I marked now? Or had they simply spared me once to see what I'd do next? The moment I stepped into the lobby, déjà vu rolled over me like a wave of ice water. The lights flickered as I pushed the door open. The air smelled faintly of lemon and dust, same as always. But this time, there was something new. A note on the counter. It wasn't typed like the last one. It was handwritten, shaky, spidery lettering pressed into yellowing motel stationery. You lasted longer than the others. No signature, no context. It sat there like a threat, dressed up as a compliment. I crumpled it up and tossed it in the bin. but I couldn't ignore what it meant. I wasn't the first hire who'd been given the rules, just the first, still working. At 11:30 p.m., the landline rang. Not room 6, not the front desk, not any known line. The screen just blinked. Unknown extension. I let it ring until it stopped. My hands shook the entire time. When it finally went silent, I waited, breathing heavily, watching. Then the LED blinked again. A voicemail had been left. I refused to check it. I unplugged the cordless handset completely and tossed it in the drawer beneath the desk. The static silence that followed was somehow worse. Around 12:40 a.m., the lobby lights dimmed for a second, just enough for my reflection to become visible again in the far mirror. I averted my eyes quickly. I wasn't going to fall for it this time, but something still moved in the glass, a flicker, a distortion. It was hard not to look. Instead, I took out my phone, pointed the camera at the mirror. I figured if I didn't look with my own eyes, maybe I could cheat the rule. My screen showed only the empty lobby, but when I looked away and pulled up the picture a moment later, something was standing next to my reflection, barely visible, almost out of frame. It looked like a man, only wrong. Too tall, limbs slightly too angular. He was bent slightly at the waist, hands relaxed at his sides. But his face, no, it didn't have a face, just a blur, a smudge where features should have been, like the camera itself couldn't resolve what it was seeing. I deleted the photo instantly. Some things are better unremembered. At 1:03 a.m., right on cue, the knock came again. 3 slow, deliberate taps on the glass. This time, I didn't move. I stayed seated, eyes fixed on the clock. The knocking stopped after a minute. Then, something else happened. A scratching. Long, dragging claws against the inside of the vestibule wall. Not the door. The wall. The scraping sound made my molars ache. It curled in my ears like the sound of teeth grinding slowly against a chalkboard. I whispered the phrase from the list. The guest has not arrived. It didn't help. The walls breathed. I swear to God, they pulsed outward, just for a second, like the building itself was inhaling. At precisely 1:07, the scratching stopped. All I could hear was my own heartbeat, clattering against the bones of my chest. Then came rule number 6, the one I hadn't read aloud but had memorized from that first page anyway. Rule number 6. If you hear scratching or scraping sounds coming from under any of our doors, ignore it. The hallway lights flickered once. Then everything went dead silent before a sudden heavy crash came from far down the corridor. One of the guest room doors, maybe room 9 or 10, had been flung shut with inhuman force. Then came the thudding. Footsteps. Heavy. Slow. Wet. Like someone walking barefoot across tile floors, soaked in water. Each step echoed, not just through the hallway, but inside my stomach. Like I could feel it, through the floor and up my spine. I ducked behind the counter, heart racing. The sound drew closer. Lap. Lap. Pause. Lap. Lap. It stopped, right outside the lobby. I couldn't see it, but I could feel the presence. Massive. Looming. Wrong. Then, for the first time, it spoke. Not loudly, not even angrily, but clearly. Just 3 words. Wrong. You looked. Every word felt like it unzipped something inside me. an invisible seam in the fabric of my thoughts. I bristled, frozen, confused, afraid. And then it was gone. No sound, no retreat, just absence. I didn't breathe again for 60 full seconds. Eventually, I stood up and checked the hallway. Empty. The air was thick with static, as if the motel's atmosphere clung to the things that had passed through it. I sat back down, trembling. I didn't understand these things. I didn't want to. But with each rule invoked, I felt less like an employee and more like a caretaker in some bizarre cosmic game I couldn't quit. By 2:30 a.m., I noticed something else. The calendar on the back wall? It hadn't changed, still showed Monday. But tonight was Tuesday. No, Wednesday. I was sure of it. I checked my phone. The date had reset. My last text was gone. So was the one I sent Rick, asking if there'd been camera footage of the last night. The motel wasn't just haunted, it was dislocated. Time bent here, memories evaporated, and all the guests. Well, I hadn't seen a normal guest in days. Correction, I hadn't noticed one. People passed through this place like shadows, but never arrived, never left. And I was starting to wonder if I ever had. The week wore on like a scar, slowly forming. Each shift stained me a little deeper. By night 4, I no longer questioned the rules. I obeyed them, ritualistically, like a priest going through sacred rites I barely understood. I didn't think anymore. I responded, automatically. I kept the lights dim but not dark, answered the phone only from clearly marked lines. I referred to the cheat sheet stored beneath the drawer, like a soldier checking a bomb manual. Disobedience wasn't an option anymore, because I'd seen what happened when the motel didn't like you. I never knew their names, the other workers before me. But Rick told me once in a low moment that 17 people had quit this job in the last 3 years. 6 went missing. 3 ended up in psychiatric care. 1 tried to light the motel on fire. He didn't succeed. The flames never spread past the doorway. Like the building didn't want to burn. But tonight, night 5, something different happened. At exactly 12:01 a.m., the main doors unlocked on their own. A breeze drifted inward, even though the air outside was still. There were no footsteps, no motion, just a slip of paper caught on the wind, floating lazily through the gap in the door, and landing at my feet. I picked it up, blank. But when I turned it around, letters began to appear like scars across the surface. 1 by 1. Room 13 is now open. My blood turned to ice. There is no room 13. That's what the rules said. I walked around the counter and peered down the hallway. Nothing had changed. The numbers on the doors still skipped from 12 to 14. Uneven numbering, sure, but that's how it had always been. Still, I counted them. Room 1, room 2, room 3, 12, then 14. But the space between 12 and 14 seemed longer than I remembered. Like something unseen had quietly slid itself into reality when no one was looking. There wasn't a door there. Not really. Just a section of wall with peeling floral wallpaper, stained by time and neglect. But if I squinted, stood at the right angle under the flickering ceiling light, there was an outline, a door frame. Faint, impossibly thin. I took a step forward, and then I heard it, a sound from the wall, from what should have been empty space. Breathing, slow, rattling, wet. I took one single step backward. One single breath in, and the entire corridor shifted. The overhead lights surged, snapped, then fell dead. I spun around, running blindly into the lobby as emergency lighting buzzed to life overhead. Everything was painted in red tones now, like blood. And then I saw them. Figures stood just inside the entrance, a mother and her 2 children. Or something pretending to be them. They didn't speak, didn't move, just stared. More accurately, looked through me. Eyes completely black, skin a bit too waxy, hands too still. I mouthed an apology and stepped back behind the desk instinctively. And that's when I heard the bell, the small brass bell on the counter. It rang, but no one had touched it. The air stilled. One of the children blinked, slow and deliberate, and then raised a hand, pointing toward the hallway, where room 13 now stood, fully visible. The door, now unmistakable, had no number nailed to it. Just a strange series of intersecting circles etched into the wood grain, like something carved it smooth with a razor over years. The walls around the door pulsed darker, pulsed, like a heartbeat. I looked once more for the family. Gone. The lobby was empty again. The door to room 13 remained. I wasn't curious. I wasn't brave. But something in me was drawn to it. Like it was waiting for me specifically. Like my breaking the rules, even slightly, hadn't gone unnoticed. I took one step toward the corridor, heart racing. And as I reached the hall, the key drawer slid open by itself, and a single plastic card rattled loose onto the floor. I turned it over. 13. I don't remember picking it up, but a moment later it was in my hand. I walked the corridor slowly. The door loomed ahead of me, cold, breathless. I reached for the handle when Rick's words came back. If a guest asks for room 13, walk home. Don't come back. Was that guest me? Was I the one asking? I dropped the key. It clattered sharply on the tile, a hollow sound that echoed far too long for such a small space. I ran. Back to the lobby. Back to the counter. Back to the list. I unsheathed the rules and read rule number 5 again. Carefully. If someone asks for room 13, end your shift immediately. Go home. And do not return. But I hadn't asked. Had I? I hadn't spoken the words. But it was open, and the key was there. Had the motel now decided I was ready, or that I was done? I stuffed the list in my pocket, grabbed my coat, and practically flew from behind the counter. My only thought was leave. Just get to the car, give up the money, the job, the silence. It wasn't worth it anymore. I burst through the front doors and into the lot. It was empty. Not one vehicle in sight. Not mine. Not guests. Not even Rick's crusty little Corolla. Just the dark silhouette of the woods across the highway, and empty road stretching for miles. My car was gone, but my breath froze when I turned back around on. Because the motel was no longer there. The parking lot extended into a flat, endless plain. And behind me was nothing. I swear I hadn't taken my eyes off it. The motel. But it was gone. Vanished. Like it had never been built. No foundation. No rubble. Just cracked asphalt leading to grass. And then trees. I spun in circles, my heart knocking against the cage of my ribs. Had I snapped? Had I finally gone mad? Then I saw movement. Not in front of me, behind my eyes. That strange, pulsing sensation of something climbing its way into your thoughts, like a fog seeping into a room. And for the first time, I realized I couldn't remember where I lived. I couldn't remember how long I'd had the job, or if Rick was even a real person, or whether I ever applied in the first place. All I could remember were the rules. They slithered through my brain like prayers etched deeper than my own name. Do not open the door after 1:03. Do not acknowledge the reflection. Do not speak to the child with the featureless face. Do not leave before sunrise. Do not ask about room 13. But I had broken all of them. Not at once, not dramatically, but piece by piece. And like cracks in a dam, something had finally broken through. I stood in that empty lot until the temperature dropped, until the chill soaked not just into my skin, but into my marrow. And then footsteps, crunching behind me on gravel, slow, steady, with purpose. I didn't turn around, because I knew, without needing to see, that someone, or something, was holding out a new envelope. And if I opened it, the rules inside wouldn't be warnings. They'd be commands. This time, it wasn't about surviving the night shift. It was about becoming part of whatever needed the shift to exist at all. So when I reached out, it wasn't fear that guided me. It was familiarity and the cold comfort of ritual. Because now I know, the rules don't keep you safe. They keep you from remembering what you've become. It's been 6 days since I left the motel. Or at least, I think I left. Hard to tell sometimes. The world looks the same. Strip malls, gas stations, ugly street lights drowning the sky in amber. People pass me on sidewalks. They look normal. I look normal. But something's off. The days feel like static. Empty time playing on loop. The sun rises too fast and sets too slow. Food tastes like paper. Music has no rhythm. Laughter outside sounds too sharp, like it's being played back from a dusty cassette. Everything's just a little too quiet. And the worst part? No one remembers the Delvine Motel. I've asked. I went back out to Highway 23, drove past where it should have been. Nothing. Just winding road, swamp brush, and the occasional crow on a signpost. No ruin, no construction tape, not even a foundation. So either it never existed, or I don't anymore. I've tried researching it, pulled deeds from decades ago, checked zoning maps, archived newspapers. Nothing. The Delvine never shows up. But I still have the key card, plain white plastic, with a single red number etched on one side. R13. It stays warm in my pocket, no matter where I go. Like it remembers what I did, what I saw, what I let in. I keep telling myself I'm free, that I escaped, that all I endured was some deeply buried hallucination, a mental fracture stitched together by isolation and fear. But at night, when I sleep, if I sleep, I dream of keys rattling in empty drawers. I dream of cinnamon, of mirrors I can't look into, of a child's drawing pressed into my hands by invisible fingers. Every morning I wake up gasping, and I always hear it, somewhere just beyond my bedroom door. 3 knocks, soft, measured, 1:03 a.m. And then that horrible whisper, curling through the keyhole like breath against the edge of sleep. Wrong. You looked. I haven't opened the door. Not yet. But it's getting harder. I've taped over the mirrors. I've destroyed every clock in my apartment. I unplug the phone every night. But time still slips. Rules still rewrite themselves. And that damn envelope keeps reappearing. I've burned it 3 times now. Always turns up again, beneath my pillow. Sealed. Waiting. Some mornings, I wake up already reading new ones. Rule 14. Speak only to those who cast shadows. Rule 15. Ignore the man in the drain. He is not praying. Rule 16. If the rules stop making sense, you're close. Very close. What happens then? I don't know. I don't think I want to, but I can feel something watching me. Not in that paranoid, tinfoil on your head kind of way. It's deeper, older, as if the motel wasn't a place I worked, but a doorway I opened. I've stopped talking to people. Nothing sounds real anymore. No voice is trustworthy. I see things move just slightly too long in their periphery. Faces blur, names repeat, conversations loop like scratched vinyl. They ask me if I'm okay, but how could I answer that? You can't understand unless you've heard the mirror speak your name, unless you've sat alone through the longest night imaginable, obeying rules no human should have to follow, just to survive until sunrise. And even then, you don't really survive. You just become a different version of yourself. One who listens when walls breathe. One who no longer asks, what is real? But instead, what was traded in order to forget? So yeah, maybe the motel's gone. Maybe the world's moved on. But wherever I walk now, the ground feels thin. Reality papered over something deeper, breathing beneath. And I know this much. One day, probably soon, there will be another door, a new motel, a man in a brimmed hat and too wide smile, another envelope with another list. And this time, I won't hesitate, because I understand now. The rules were never about protection. They were instructions for coming home.